Hi everybody, and welcome to week 11. We're winding down now with the topics in our course, and we're going to continue on this path of looking at education, specifically educating women as a solution to issues such as trafficking, gender violence, maternal mortality, and so on. So this week's module might seem a bit all over the place at first, but we're eventually going to get to a point about a gender-related issue here in the United States, which is the lack of female representation in what we call the STEM fields. STEM is an acronym that stands for science, technology, engineering, and math, and any field or profession that could fall into that category. So first of all, as usual, I want you to begin with Half the Sky and the global perspective on solutions. This week you're reading chapter 13 about two different types of solutions. There are grassroots solutions and treetop solutions. So it's important that you understand the distinction between the two. Before you read, picture how grass grows. From the bottom up, right? It never gets very tall. Instead, it stays right on the ground level. Now imagine a fully grown tree. It also started from the bottom, but treetops are very high up in the sky, and they're very far away from the soil that they started from. So now try to imagine that you are trying to fix an issue in the community of Flint. A grassroots effort would come from people very close to the issue, like grass is to soil. Perhaps community members in Flint themselves trying to address the problem. A treetops effort, though, would come from an entity that is very far removed from the issue, like the tops of trees to soil. Can you think of what that might be? Perhaps the state or federal government? So the beginning of chapter 13 in Half the Sky describes both types of solutions and the ways that different groups of people tried to end the practice of female genital mutilation, otherwise known as FGM. In Senegal. So both groups had the best intentions at heart, which is to end this really horrible cultural tradition, but one type of solution in particular was more effective. So any guesses as to what that might be? Any guesses before you read the chapter? So after you read, though, I want you to think about whether your thoughts were confirmed and your reasons for thinking of that. So after reading chapter 13, you're going to see that education can be one type of grassroots effort to address an important issue like FGM. The chapter itself is less about FGM and more about education as a solution to that. So that's where I want you to focus some of your thoughts and thinking this week. So last week, though, we touched on some possible barriers that could exist to providing education for women. So the next article you're going to read is called The Multiple Dimensions of Gender Equality in Education. So this lists what needs to happen for girls to be educated equally to boys around the world. The first thing is girls and boys both need equal access to education, which you read last week could be really difficult. Number two, you need equity in the learning process. Girls should be able to learn the same curriculum as boys in school. Then you have equality of educational outcomes. So achievements, honors, or even awarding degrees should be free of gender bias. And then four, we need equality of external results. Career opportunities should be available equally to girls and boys. So this article discusses gender discrimination in education around the world, but there's this local issue where these four aspects of gender equality in education are not always present. In the United States, we have a gender gap in the STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. There are more males entering these professions and succeeding than women. And this issue is much more complex than simply boys like these types of professions and girls don't, or boys are into building things and girls are not. Let's think about why boys might be drawn to these professions more than girls. What do we say and do as adults that might reinforce gender stereotypes that boys are not as good at math as girls, or that math is for boys, engineering is for boys, and it's not for girls? My husband's an engineer, and I'm a teacher, so we're a prime example of gender roles at play. More females are in the teaching profession than males, especially early childhood or elementary education. He attended classes all through his undergrad with less than 5 females. Even now, on a daily basis, he only interacts with roughly less than 5 female engineers at a really big company. So this is problematic. You might think, so what does it matter? But STEM fields are typically high-paying jobs that are really growing and expanding rapidly. So if women are not represented in these fields, they're going to be missing out on some economic opportunities. So not to mention that companies like my husband's are missing out on the diverse perspectives that can come from having a wide range of people working at your company, both genders included. So I want you to read the short blog post about this called Closing the STEM Gender Gap, about this very issue. So think about stereotypes that related to this that you have seen in your life. What can you do in your profession to combat this gender gap? If you're in a STEM field like business, accounting, we want to hear from you on your thoughts. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this. If you're going into education, what can you do as a future teacher to combat the stereotype when students are very young? So on this topic, I want to finish by having you watch a fun video about a toy company called GoldieBlox. This toy company makes products that allow kids to play with building, engineering, and hands-on projects. So typically these types of toys are marketed only to boys. But this company actually goes out of their way to show that toys are for everyone, not just boys, and girls that play with blocks and build projects are cool as well. So actually some of their line is specifically marketed to girls, which is quite the opposite of these types of toys usually are. So this fall they made a commercial that marketed their engineering toys specifically to girls, and they actually parodied a song by the Beastie Boys called Girls in the commercial. This is kind of a viral video, so some of you might have seen this on Facebook or on Twitter. But I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Beastie Boys, but if you were an elementary or middle school kid in the late 80s and early 90s like me, you definitely know them. They're a rap group that still made albums up until recently with the passing of one of their members 2 years ago. But anyway, in the mid-80s, the Beasties' rap lyrics were very sexist and quite misogynistic, making light of beating women and gender violence, and in fact sometimes encouraging it, and featuring pretty homophobic lyrics, among other things. So their song, this came out in the mid-80s, called Girls, in particular, is very sexist. The lyrics describe how they want a girlfriend so she can do their laundry and clean for them. So the commercial actually took that sexist song and twisted it and added new lyrics that actually empower girls to go into engineering. So it was kind of very clever of them to take a traditionally very sexist song and turn it on its ear. But unfortunately, GoldieBlox did not get permission to use the song, and they were in a copyright battle with the band to use it, and they had to put out a video without the girls' song in the background. But the idea was still the same, and the Beastie Boys themselves were put in a very tough spot because they wanted to protect their own copyright, but they also wanted to show their support for the good message of the commercial. Despite their lyrics from their early albums, the group has actually come around quite a bit and matured, and even have apologized many years ago for some of their awful early lyrics, and they've since embraced nonviolence and peaceful teachings of Buddhism. So they've come around, so we don't have to hate on the Beastie Boys too much. But I do have a copy of the video on Blackboard in our module that actually has the girls parody in it, because they have since sort of resolved some of their copyright issues. So watch that video and enjoy, and kind of think about that as related to some of these education issues. Think about what this toy company is trying to do to combat these stereotypes. So that's it for this module. Couple reminders. This week on campus is dedicated to learning about human trafficking. There's an event every day this week from Tuesday to Friday related to this topic, and each event can be a possibility for your Women's Educational Center events assignment if you chose that assignment. The specifics on each one are in the assignment sheet about the WEC events, so make sure you pull that up. You see where the dates, times, and locations are if these events are. Remember also that the Flint Soup event on March 30th related to microfinance is a possibility to attend. It's not on that sheet because it is not free. It costs $5 to get in, but your money actually goes to an entrepreneur in Flint. So I wanted to leave that open as a possibility. It's at night on March 30th. Lake Flint Soup on Facebook if you want to get more information about their event. But that's another possibility. And then after that, after this week, there's only one other event available in April. So if you're looking to attend events, this is really pretty much your last week to do so. So you might need to clear your schedule. Remember, after you attend an event, you must write a discussion post and post it to that week's module in order to get full credit. And you must sign in to every event that you go to in order to get credit for attending as well. So speaking of the running out of time to do things, there are also only 3 weeks left in this semester to do reading reflections if you chose that assignment. So this week, the week of March 31st and the week of April 7th. So those are the only 3 left. If you still have not completed 5 of them, you need to figure out how many you have left to do, and you might end up being very busy these last 3 weeks. So keep that in mind. We're running out of opportunities to complete them. So this week's reading reflection is due on Sunday, just like they always are, March 30th, 11:59. If you chose the discussion post or comments assignment, you must complete a post every week we have readings, which will total 12 in the end. So if you missed a week, you can go back and do them for partial credit. Keep note there are only 3 more weeks of readings left, so you need to do all 3 of those if you are doing the discussion post and comments assignment, if you chose those. Also, keep working on final projects if you chose the regional issues paper or the book review assignment. Those are really big ones that will need to be completed by April 20th. So you have less than a month to work on those. So I'm trying to give you a heads up on what you have left to do in the course. So have a great week, and as always, let me know if you need anything.